I want to thank all my panel members for showing up here. I want to thank, of course, the ICA and the Colorist Mixer for making this possible. We're going to talk today about how to make money color grading in the light of COVID. And I'm just going to do a quick little short, I'd like you each to take maybe 30 seconds to introduce yourselves, just who you are, where you're from, and a little an idea of what sort of, if you're working for a large group, if you've worked for large groups, small groups. And Waz, I'm always going to at least here, I'm going to start with you, my friend. So tell us a little bit about where you are, what you're from, and a little bit about your sort of clients.
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm in Brisbane, Australia. It's 5 a.m. here. I work on all sorts of jobs, no big, no too small, commercials, long form. I have worked at some big companies previously, but I've been freelance for about at least 15 years, I would say. And yeah, color anything, still enjoying it after nearly 30 years.
Diego.
Hi everyone, I'm Diego. I'm from Bogota, Colombia. My clients are usually the first one to knock the door. That will be my client. I grade everything. What I like more is long formats, definitely. And I have a small boutique, like color house in Colombia. And what I usually like is to share that color room with freelancers. So I say to all of the freelancers, hey, don't get a color room, don't invest so much money, come here and we share. That's it.
Rebecca.
Hello.
Hello.
Rebecca. I am from Essex in the UK. Been in the industry for 11 years now. I joined when I was 18 and I've just opened, so I've been freelance for 6 years, yeah. And literally this month I launched my a full post-production company called Author Productions. So yeah, it's been it's been a bit of a whirlwind month, but yeah, it's been good fun.
MTO.
Yeah, my name is Mark Todd Osborne. I'm a colorist for the last 22 years. I spent nearly 12 years at Company 3 Santa Monica when they first opened to when I left. I've been on my own for about, 11 years now. I've worked for various people like James Cameron and other post houses. And now I have my own company called MTO Color that I do quite a bit of work at, but I still work for many post houses in Los Angeles.
Outstanding. And I have to always wrap Waz on the other side with Mr. Kevin Shaw.
Hello, Kevin Shaw. Also a colorist, been a colorist 37 years now, just trying to work it out in my head, 37 years. Had my own company, Final Color, for the last 15 of those. Co-founded the International Colorist Academy with Warren. I'm also president of the Colorist Society International. And yeah, still grading. I do everything like the others. I started out in music videos. I've done commercials, done TV work, film, theatrical is kind of my passion at the moment, but who doesn't love a great music video, eh? Still get a kick out of it. And teaching, learning, it's still fun.
I was going to say, Kevin, you get a kick out of it, but you don't get any dollars out of it, do you?
Not as many as before.
They used to be quite lucrative, didn't they? Back in the day, they had
when
big
you get
budgets.
37 years, is that when you finally get good at your craft?
No.
No, but they give them a gold. They give them a gold set of color bars, which you know.
I'm looking forward to that.
I like it. The idea of gold bars instead of color bars.
So here's the way we're going to kind of handle this panel. I've got a couple pre-built questions. I'm going to throw in one or two. We're going to get a poll in there. We're going to, pay heed for our sponsors a little bit. And I want to make sure I get to as many of the audience questions as I can. But I want to start off with a big honking question. And the kind of the rules are when I give you my big questions. it's okay for you to feel like answering it. It's okay for you not to feel like answering it. We're not necessarily going to look and hear from everybody on every question, because we do want to get to as many of the practical questions. But here's the big one. What do you think is the most important attribute of a colorist? And my rule on these is, let's keep them to a minute. What do you think is the most important attribute?
Who are you asking it to, Jeff?
Yeah, who are you asking?
All of you, raise your hand. I'll call on
At
somebody
once?
just
We all
so
say it at
we have
once?
order. Yeah. Mr. Shaw.
Well, obviously you've got to have a good eye. I mean, that's got to be right up there at the top. But I would say, other than the obvious things, flexibility has been the most important part of my career, really. The willingness to kind of take a chance on something and learn on the job, as it were. And I'll keep it short.
MTO.
I would say, talent and likability. You got to have the eye, but you also got to be likable in this business.
Rebecca.
Yeah, I think the obvious one of being able to match shots is important, because without that you don't really have a grade. But yeah, like being able to juggle a room, like I think I had my first client back the other day and it was exhausting. I forgot what it was like having to entertain a client whilst grading, and it was just like, oh my god, like and when you got more than one client and they have different like conflicting ideas on where the film should go, you need to be able to balance them out as well. So I guess it's having people skills as well as the actual technology and the artistic creative skills.
Rebecca, were
yeah,
you
really is a
making
lot
the
to grading.
coffees? Were you making the coffees as well?
No, 'cause here's the thing, right? I don't drink tea or coffee, so I always forget. I'm literally the worst host. I forget to offer people drinks. So unless I'm always like, here's where you get the drinks.
Well, that saves a bit of time. The problem is there's two things here with me. Like, I don't make it a particularly good coffee, so the clients are going, well, great. I hope he doesn't stop grading to go and make me coffee, because that's going to be doubly bad.
Yeah.
He's going to waste time and it's going to be rubbish.
That's an expensive coffee as well.
I'm all for making coffee along those lines. Waz,
Yeah.
what do you think is the most important attribute?
It's like the other guys have said, really, it's a real mix. But some people have said to me, I've looked at these reels of all these people and I think my work is as good. Why am I not building my way up the ladder? And I said, and I've said this to some people, you look at all of these people, if you look at these high-end colorists, we've mentioned a few earlier, we've all started from the same place. No one got given a job in anywhere. It's just through hard work, talent, all of the things above, and those people will rise to the top. They've not been given that to get those jobs. So it's just hard work. And you got to be like Heavy. You got to be really flexible, know the jobs to take, the jobs not to take, and you can get there.
We're going to talk about the jobs not to take in a little bit. Diego, I want to make sure I gave you a chance, my friend.
Good. I will say that give it more than what they expect. If they expect right now in the pandemic, like send you one file by WeTransfer, give it the option of Frame.io, or send always more, give always more when they expect.
That's great advice. One thing I've heard consistently in my career is a client saying, look, I don't want a button pusher. I want someone that's going to contribute to my project. I'm looking for your expertise to help take my vision and make it better.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So I promise everybody out there, I'm going to get to as many of these questions. I got about 3 that are going to lay out some beautiful foundations. Here comes number 2. And from here on out, raise your hands, my panelists, and I'll just pick from you. And if you don't have anything to say, I won't make you say something. Your clients are gold. How do you look after them? How do you keep them? Rebecca's already told us they're not going to get good coffee and tea service, which I applaud, by the way. That's what a Keurig is for. In dead seriousness, your clients are gold. How do you look after them? How do you keep
Um,
boss?
I would say don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to pick up the phone and follow up. I think a lot of the time we, especially now in COVID, we render the job, we send it off, and we don't hear anything. We think that's great. You know, they're not bitching about this, and we're not having to redo stuff. But always ring up and just follow up after every job and say, was it okay? Anything we could have done? Do you want me to do a director's cut for you? Do you want me to do another grade? They will really appreciate that follow-up. And remember to use the phone. Don't hide behind an email or something. And when we can go back out, socializing and trying to mix with people and go to events is a good thing.
yeah, like
Rebecca.
I really found as well that like I work on a lot of short films, and they all go around like the festival circuits, and I found that a lot of people are really passionate about their projects and they're so enthusiastic to be like, oh my god, we won this award, and I might be like, cool. I mean, because it doesn't necessarily mean anything to me, but it's the world to them. So, you know, if I'm like sharing that on my social media, that's massive for them. Like they're like, oh my god, thank you so much, and it's literally 2 clicks. And but you know, so just like little things that, you know, doesn't really mean much or take much effort, but it means so much to my client. And you know, just sharing their work and well, essentially my work too, you know, can keep them coming back to me. So I graded this short film literally for pennies, and now I've got a feature film out of it. So it really, you know, it works like that just by doing little things like that.
I second what Rebecca and Waz said.
I like that. MTO, there's nothing wrong with that. And that's why I made it a real clear point that, you know, you don't have to contribute, because I watch a lot of panels where, you know, they go through and they make sure, I want you all to be heard, but you don't have to say something if you're not adding to the conversation along those lines beyond like, yeah, because that is also still an important item. I want to ask a big personal question, and then I want to go to a poll. And the personal question is, you know, we're talking 5 different countries represented, 5 including myself, because MTO and I are are in the same country right now. Although technically Kevin and Rebecca are. Have you guys received any COVID relief? I'm not going to question about what you've applied, if you've applied. I just want to see, have you applied for any COVID relief? Or received any, I should say.
Yeah.
Was?
Yeah. One of the benefits of having a company, and I would stress there probably are benefits of starting a limited company or a PTY company. This is not just in COVID. You can claim for quite a lot of things that you can't if you're just a staff or a sole trader. And so there was this government assistance. You just had to be 30% down on last year. That was pretty easy to qualify. I have a couple of staff, they're family members, which is fine. To be honest, they don't do an awful lot for their money, right? I'm paying them. They're in my company and they do things for me. They do a bit of conforming, cleaning the office, bookkeeping. Anyway, but that means they can get that as well. So that has helped me for the last year, but that runs out next week.
Yeah, in the UK, it's been pretty tough. And it'd be interesting to see whether Rebecca was more lucky. I have a pretty decent accountant. And I think that's an important part of running a business, and I run a limited company. But I mean, as a small limited company, fell through the cracks, got nothing. The only thing I could manage was an interest-free loan, which also runs out next week. And I'm now going to, actually, I'm not going to be able to pay it back in all honesty. So I'm going to pay it back in installments with interest. But yeah, I mean, don't have any staff on salary, so couldn't claim furlough. Don't pay myself on salary, so that didn't work. The various benefits to businesses were really more to do with payment holidays. So payment tax holidays, both corporate and personal and VAT. And so that didn't work really either, because I still have to pay it, and it's not going to get easier. So we didn't have much luck here. I didn't get much. I don't know whether, Rebecca, how did you do?
Yeah, so I think the government really failed with limited companies, but I'm a sole trader, and I actually benefited a lot with COVID relief. So I also have a business premises, so I was able to get like the 10K grant that they were giving out, as well as the, instead of like, because obviously I can't furlough myself, so instead of that they were giving out like lump sums every 3 months, and also the bounce back loans were available. So I actually came out quite well out of COVID.
Oh,
Sorry.
I'm so sad.
But the reality of it is that obviously it's still hitting, and it's I don't know what is happening with the industry. I don't know how everyone else is finding grading in general at the moment, but yeah, it's not as great as it was.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I mean, this is, look, the reason we put this question for this panel is this is not a common conversation that I hear my friends or colleagues talk about. And I think that it's part of one of the beautiful parts about Warren and Kevin starting, the ICA and, our group involvement around the Colorist mixer is we're not just doing the, hey, it's flashy, it's gorgeous looking work. We're really talking about this very personal, that carries some shame in some ways, is, but this is literally a pandemic. Diego and then MTO, because MTO, I'm going to just tag in the end because I have a specific LLC thing for the USAs that might be useful. Diego, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I will say that I mean, we didn't have here in the country like any relief for COVID. We did have some help for taxes that we didn't have to pay like the next day, probably next week or something like that. But what was something important for the film industry here is that Netflix helps the people. So you could apply to, there was like a web page and so on, and you could apply for a Netflix relief, and Netflix was helping the film industry, at least here in the country. I didn't apply, but I know some people that applied and got all that help. So it was important.
MTO. Hold on
Yeah.
a second, Waz.
Did you want to go, Waz, or do you want to?
Oh, no, that's fine. All I was going to say is don't think it's bad to apply for any money. If you've been working and you've been paying taxes wherever you've been, you try and apply and get any sort of grants or any sort of money you can, because that's going to help you just get over the line. So some people think it's bad or they shouldn't be getting this. No, you try and you deserve that if you've been paying taxes. Sorry, you go, Mark.
Yeah, a few years ago, I formed an S Corp company, and it's been much more beneficial to have an S Corp rather than to be a freelancer. There's many more tax benefits, at least out here in the States, which I just wish I would have done that a lot sooner, because we were paying so much more in taxes before I did that. But yes, I did. They offered a little bit of help during the COVID, and we applied and took it for sure.
I'm just going to tag in the end there because I think this is, I'm an LLC, I'm a sole proprietor and along those lines. For those of you in the US who are LLCs, aside from going to talk to your accountant, none of us are your accountant. Schedule C, line 31 has the magic line you need to know. Look at your 2018, 2019 taxes. That line is the one that's the key to either I think it's a 1% or a 0% loan that's forgivable. And with that being said, I want to run a couple poll questions, and then I want to take some questions from the audience. So if you're not at slido.com R768, now would be the time to go, because I would like to ask a couple questions on the live poll side. We're going to activate those polls. So I'm going to run through this out loud. I should share it, but I think those of you who are looking at it.
Yeah.
How
It's-
long have you been in this industry? Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's working. It's good. Yeah.
Excellent. I'm going to go with, I've been in the industry. I am an industry veteran. I am, I'm an owner operator. Am I freelance? How has my rate changed? Oh, I'm trying to think it stayed the same, but it's going down. It's smaller. It's the same rate, just in different places. When did you last raise your hourly rate? I'm going to say probably before 2015. I'm going to send that in. And it says, thank you for the responses. And then I'm going to, in a moment here, see if I can make those responses visible for everybody. Oh, I can. So let me do that. I'm going to do that as an official screen share in a minute.
I love the last.
We've got about we got to give people a moment to fill it out.
Yeah. Yeah. My rate hasn't changed, but like it hasn't gone down. I just work less hours, I think, for the same sort of money. But
Yeah.
Something while we're-
MTO, go ahead.
When I first left company 3, I worked for Light Iron. The first year they were open before they moved to their location they're at. And I remember I was new at freelancing still. So coming from being a full-time employee, and I remember talking to one of the producers there after about a year of being a freelancer there. I was kind of sheepishly telling her, I'm going to raise my rates this year. And she looked at me and said, Mark, you got to know what you're worth. If that's what you're worth, that's what we'll pay. So you got to know what your worth is as an independent, and do your best to stick to it. Doesn't mean you can't be flexible now and then, but for the most part, know what you're worth.
Yeah, and I would add to that, for those that are not freelance, if you're working at a company, particularly if you're new, if you're an assistant or something, a trick that I found very early on is if a company has kind of brought you up from an assistant up to a colorist, you're gonna have to leave that company to be accepted as a serious colorist and get decent money. That's kind of what you pay the company, is they'll pay you less because they trained you up. So sooner or later you have to kind of kick out. And then as a freelancer, there is a poll that's running by the German chapter of the Colorist Society on salaries, and it's quite in depth. It talks about whether you own your own equipment or whether you work for somebody else, whether you're an employed staffer. It also talks about what genre you're in. Are you working on features or commercials and so on? And that's pretty interesting. There is a huge discrepancy in rates around the world. So you have to know what your market is prepared to pay as well.
That's true. Yeah.
So now I've got to see if I can remember here how to show the results. All results, let's see. No, I don't want to export it. I want to show it's an active poll. Survey. Do I hit stop? I don't think I hit stop. No, there's the survey. There's the questions. Come on, Jeff. Get back to that survey. Please fill it in. I will work out in a minute. We'll come back to that. With that being said, let's do some Q&A and we'll see the answers of this at the end. Okay, first big question. How to charge when you're starting out? Minimal equipment, laptop consumer monitor. Should I do work for free in order to build a demo reel? And, you guys, all of you encounter that generation that can grab a laptop. I think the real question there is, should you work for free?
Oh boy. All right. There are instances where I think the only time you would work for free, and I had a couple of bad experiences doing free work a few years ago, that's kind of made me shy, because I've always believed, in this business, it's sort of an under the table thing that if you scratch someone's back, they scratch yours. It's just a verbal kind of a thing. So if you've got a client that you're working with a lot, that they're paying your rate, and then they say, hey, there's this one that I need your help on, as long as you sort of make an agreement with them that, yeah, as long as we continue doing the regular rate stuff, I'll slip this one in and do it for free. Having said that, there's been a couple times where I was working with a client in that respect, and that particular client never heard from them again after I did the free one, because I think it kind of created this thing that that person owed me something. So you got to be careful. I guess it just depends on the client that you make that deal with.
Yeah, I like to tell everybody that takes my classes, you know, the first part of professional, that pro part, that stands for profit. If you're not making money at what you're doing, you're not a professional. I really am very cagey about taking on free work. And I've actually had worse experiences than you, Mark.
Oh, really?
And there was a time when I did take on free sort of free works, pro bono works, on the premise that there was going to be, you know, more work on the back of it. And I didn't even get those jobs. I mean, what they would do when they had money is they would come to you and they'd say, show us, you know, we just need to sell this to the client. And you do all the tests and you send them the look and stuff. And they give it to the editor and they tell him to match it.
Exactly.
So yeah, be very careful about free work. There has to be some profit. Now, it doesn't have to be cash. If it's going to look good on your reel, or if it's client that you already know, if it's charity work, I've done a lot of charity work, all good. But
Yeah.
don't do free jobs thinking that it's going to make money or it's going to build your career in the future. That's not going to happen.
No.
Be realistic about it.
Rebecca?
From experience as well, I kind of feel when I have taken a job that is low budget, they're always the clients that really take the piss out of your time and don't respect you. And so I've really learned to set very hard terms, you know, like with regards to this is your deliverable, that's it, kind of thing, just because otherwise it just drags on and on and on and on. And like, I'm a perfectionist, and I you know, and I hate to see people who aren't happy with the work I've done, but at the same time, you just got to draw a line. And because it goes back to the rates thing, because like, you know what you're worth, and you know, if you've got someone eating up so much of your time, you haven't got time for the people who do respect you and do want to pay you what you're worth. So, you know, yeah, you do, yeah, agreeing with the other guys, you do need to weigh up the pros and cons. If it's show reel worthy, then absolutely. But you know, sometimes it's just not worth it.
You got to be also, oh, go ahead, Woz.
No. MTO.
You've got to be careful too about how many lower price jobs you do for people too, because then suddenly you become that guy or girl that does the low end, you know, it's hard to break out of that. You got to be careful of that too. And, you know, we've all heard this, and even the post houses, the big post houses hear this, the old, oh, do this favor for me now. And then next one, when I got money, I'm coming back. And I kid you not, never see those people ever again.
No.
They've got the same price as what you did last time, because that's kind of what you did for them before. So you got to be careful.
Yeah, I would say it is a difficult one. You're coming up and, you know, you've got your basic room set up and you don't want to undercharge because, you know, that's a race to the bottom for everybody. So when you feel confident and you've got some gear, and I'd say the minimum is a monitor there, try and speak to some other colorists and try and get a feel for what everyone's charging. Like in Australia, I know a lot of the people, we're roughly 200 an hour for commercials. There's a few hero people get more. Long form's about 1,000 a day. And that's about what everyone charges. And it goes, it's a bit more, maybe a bit less, but that's what it is. So when you're coming into the game, you don't want to be coming in and really undercutting. You need to know your worth, but you've got to be confident at that stage that, yeah, I'm a colorist now. I'm not a DP stroke editor stroke this. If you're pitching and you're going, this is what I do now, you have the confidence and you got the reel and the credits to back it up, you charge the rate.
I'll say
MTO, and then Rebecca, and then I want to take another question that'll fill in some of the gaps here.
I'll make this quick. I've been talking with colorists in our industry and just had a conversation with a New York colorist about rates. And again, and I'm transparent with my colorist friends because I feel it only helps us all, because once in a while I'll find a guy who's I mean, I've been doing it 22 years, this particular guy, I've been doing it 30 years, and he was charging way lower as a freelancer in our town. And I said, you can't do that to you or us. Your talent level is worth this much. Please try not to undercut yourself unless there was a special reason to do that. So yeah, it's a race to the bottom. Never race to the bottom.
Yeah. Well, so like 6 years ago when I first went freelance, it was quite a spontaneous thing to do. I ended up leaving Technicolor just due to like illness reasons. I never anticipated to go freelance. So all of a sudden I just had a laptop and I was like, okay, cool, I've got to make this work. So I didn't have, I think what this chat is, sorry if I'm going to ramble right now, but what this chat is amazing. I wish this happened 6 years ago, because I really needed this kind of community to know what other people were charging. So back then I was kind of like, oh, okay, I'm kind of just, you to have that back and forth with the client. We're like, what's your budget? And you kind of gauge what you can charge from that. And at that point, I would be charging £300 for the entire day. And I was like, sweet, yeah, raking it in. But when now I have this conversation with everyone, they're like, I charge that an hour. And I'm like, oh, it's going really wrong somewhere. But, it's fine to work your way up, because I sort of, it justifies, you pay for what you get. And at the time I only had a laptop, and then slowly, you work your way up to equipment. Now I have a building with 70 grand's worth of equipment. So you kind of like, it justifies the rate at the same time. And I feel like hopefully that kind of gives people an idea of, a starting rate. I don't know what the rates are nowadays for people who are just starting, but I think you have to look at your equipment as well and go, okay, this is what we got.
Yeah.
Okay, on that note right there, I'm going to just throw in a couple things, because you mentioned that
Jeff,
great
can we just mention this survey, please? Because it's really important that
absolutely,
everybody
Kevin.
takes part.
Let me get this one piece in, which is Rebecca mentioned this word community, and I wanted to do this. I wanted to make sure we call out here that a month from now, coloristmixer.com is the virtually Vegas mixer. We did a 24-hour webinar in December. This is a 6-hour, lots of time zones, lots of involvement. It's about community, Rebecca. It's about us being involved. It's really, this one actually has, I think, a $10 charge to it, but I will mention to you that there are thousands of dollars a giveaway at the end. And it's a little bit, it's not 24 hours, because I'd like Waz and Kevin to get some sleep. So I wanted to make sure I go and mention this. As long as I'm doing that, I also want to come back and show the poll results, because I worked that out. So I just want to take a second and show these. So if you're looking in app, I believe, show results. I think I've got to go. See, I had it worked out. Show polls. There we are. So how long have you been in this industry? Oh, come on, Greenberg. I hate computers. There we go. How long have you been in this industry? 38% of you are a veteran, meaning that it's over 10 years. But that means 60% of you are under 10 years. And somewhere around 25% are 5 years or less in this industry. Along that lines, are you freelance? Some 60% of you more or less are freelance, and 10% of you have a staff job. Kudos to you. The hardest problem is raising your rates in a staff job. We'll come back for everybody at the end. Has your rate changed during COVID? 40% of you have said, hold on, 30% of you said it went down. 15% of you said it went up.
Yeah.
Just having a moment going, God bless you.
If you're grading for Amazon, probably.
Right. Well, if you're grading with 0 and you're charging, it's gone up. MTO, you were going to say?
Yeah. Got to pay the mortgage, man. So,
Got to pay the mortgages, right. When did you last raise your hourly or day rate? 30% of you in 2020, So 50% of you in the last 3 years have raised your rate, and 12% of you were saying it's been the same. In fact, I'm going to take the before 2015. I'm going to say there's a solid 30% of you that have left your rates alone. And it's a hard decision. You know, you've got a client, the client's happy. Do you raise your rates? And how do you broach that? And I think we're going to do that as a micro one. I want to just see if anybody has got anything they'd like to make as observations on the poll before we come back to some of the Q&A.
I mean, I personally raised my rate because I realized I was massively undercharging. And I raised it, started charging my clients my new rate, and no one bats an eyelid. So it's like, oh, cool. Could have been charging that this whole time. So yeah, that's nice to know in a way. But yeah, I was massively undercharging, basically.
So that breeds into a question that happens about 6 times in the Q&A. How do you know what you're worth?
Fuck knows.
I was once told that 30% of my clients should walk when they hear my price.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I really think experience will dictate, and just how much you're known in your field, in your industry, in your demand. So as I'm always more confident in raising or keeping my rates pretty steady high, or a certain rate when I'm busy. But again, it's really, I think it's more about experience. When you're new, you have no reason to be charging what a seasoned colorist charges, unless if you can get away with it, great. And you do the job well, but for the most part, their clients are pretty savvy, and they'll know what your background is. So
I think a good rule of thumb is simple supply and demand as well. Like I hear people that are fully booked and they're, working 7 days a week, and they say, it's a nice problem to have, but how do I expand? And I say, that's your problem right there. If you're charging more and only working 3 days a week, you can make more money. But if you're not charging enough and you're overbooked, that's a pretty good indicator. You need to, and you know what, Rebecca mentioned this earlier, you put your rates up, you get better jobs, not worse jobs, you get better jobs.
yeah,
So don't undercharge. Yeah,
that is true, for sure.
That's going to bring me to, how did you get your first paid job as a colorist?
Oh boy.
Mandy.com.
Wow, Mandy.
Mhm.
I'm going to put a little tail on that one. How do you feel? I have very specific feelings about this, so I'm asking you a loaded question. How do you feel about the variety of websites where anybody can hang out their shingle? That would be Fiverr, Upwork, etc., as far as the quality of business you're going to end up doing?
At the time, I was a runner, so I knew I wanted to become a colorist. The company I was working at would allow me to use their Resolve, so it was just a case of I needed media I could grade to practice on. So I didn't care whether it was what it was exactly. At the time, it was just like, I need a reel, I need to practice, I need to, better myself. So, I would do my job from 9 till, I think I would work the early shifts. So I'd work like 7:30 till 4:30. And then I would shadow Adrian, who was the colorist there, from like 4:30 till 6. And then I would stay on and get the last train home at like midnight. And then in that time, I would grade the whatever footage I managed to get. So they were like really, really bad short films that hadn't been shot well, but in a way that really helped me, because I'd go in and like the following day, for example, I speak to Adrian, I'd be like, I can't match a shot, I don't know what I'm doing wrong, or like, what do I need to look for? Like, how would you approach it, for example? And he'd go, oh, you just need to do this and do that, and maybe try thinking about this. So then I had that support and someone to help me approach something that's really poorly shot. So in a way, it's helped me tackle all sorts of projects now. So in a way, like, I don't really mind that, there was a load of crap out there, because I've learned if I can grade that, then I can grade something that's really stunning.
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing.
I hope that answers your question.
It's great. I don't want to cut you off, Kevin. Please feel free. When you're done, I want to do just a quick, like, I've got about 10, 15 questions, and I want to see how fast we can get through a bunch of them. And then we're going to take a look at our COVID results that are out there. Kevin, go ahead if you wanted.
I was just quickly going to say that, back when I started, you always started out as a runner, and you became an apprentice. You assisted during the day, you took on some music videos and stuff in the nighttime. And that doesn't really apply so much now. But it was because of that sort of the strength in being able to talk to other colorists that I set up the ICA, the Colorist Academy. It really helps to be able to talk to other colorists. Forums are okay, but it's nice sometimes just to be on a sort of one-to-one relationship and be able to talk things through.
I think in that regard, the biggest problem about being able to grab a piece of software and a piece of hardware and say you're doing the work is the lack of mentorship that the industry used to really have and still has. It's just not as wide or as accessible as we might like. Let's do a quick hallway of terrors, just a couple quick questions. Answers 1 sentence, 2 sentences, maybe 1 or 2 a year. I just want to knock out a couple of these so a lot of people get their questions answered. Doing independent commercial grading, I don't know how much to charge. Day rate doesn't make sense. Project rate sometimes do. Suggestions?
I would have probably an hourly rate, but then, and say roughly you're going to quote, it's going to take 4 hours. But then I'd also say, look, if this goes into extra hours, we're billing at X amount per hour. But make sure you mention that. Otherwise, if it's an open book, you can be there a long time.
Always mention.
Yeah.
MTO. One more time, MTO.
Oh, just, same thing. But I always start with an hourly, especially for my commercial work. But you say, this is my hourly, and this is roughly going to take 6 to 8 hours. So this is about what I'm expecting. And then they might tell you, well, we've got this, can you flat it? And you might say, yeah, I can flat it to like an hour or 2 over, or for the day, or give you that day rate. But but put in your contract, if the work they've requested goes beyond what was discussed, and you get into some roto nightmare that's going to take you another day to finish, you got to have a stipulation that we've got to renegotiate or get some additional hours. Just let them know that so they don't take advantage of the flat rate. And usually it goes pretty well.
There you go. And then, sorry, Kevin, go ahead.
I was just going to build on what Mark said. So contracts are a good thing. We can talk about that, but even an email, just put it in writing. I normally, when I'm working from home, I don't normally charge an hourly rate. I mean, only an hourly rate makes sense to me if you're with a client in the room. So I'm giving fixed rates, particularly for commercial work. But then in the email, I say, right, this is what I'm going to do. This is how many changes we're going to get. So I normally build in 3 rounds of changes. Anything above that, there's a separate rate per round of changes above that. And I've just also now, for commercials at least, put a delivery price as well. So how many versions do you want delivered? There's a price for each of those. And some clients will want the project. I don't normally charge for that, but I think you're entitled to charge for the project, but definitely define upfront whether you're willing to give the project or not. That's important.
I have a price first for the project, because again, that's revenue that you could be earning if they came back for some changes. So, it's not a great fee, but it's a fee.
I will add to that part that I will add to, in so many cases, we accept the job and start grading. In many cases, at least here. So what I will say is I will take what Kevin said, make at least an email. make a paper, put everything like writing. Don't accept like, okay, let's start grading and that's it. No, because then they are going to expect more.
Yeah.
And in some moment, you're going to say no, and they get angry and you lose your client.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely defining the
Okay,
round. Jordan said too. Define how many rounds of notes you're going to let them have. And I'd say 3 is about, by 3, they should be so small. In theory.
so
In theory.
the big takeaway, and I'm going to interrupt because I want to get to a couple of the other questions. We're supposed to go fast here, guys. I think the one big, of course, takeaway is a contract and stipulations that say this is flat, but when you go over this amount, we've got to come back and renegotiate to give them a governor to prevent them from just taking it on forever. Where would you suggest finding and connecting with new clients?
The pub.
Yeah.
Sounds
I mean, that's the only way I connected. I networked when, you know, when you're in Soho. But I mean, it's not like that at the moment. So I use LinkedIn a lot. I think LinkedIn is a great resource. I've reached out to so many other colorists who I admire their work, and I've gone, hey, I love what you're up to. How did you go about doing that kind of thing? Or, you know, I'd love to work in feature films. Did you have any advice for me, kind of thing? And, you know, you'd be surprised the amount of people that get back to you and still willing to help. I mean, I still reach out to people. I find it quite lonely being a sole trader, being a freelancer. You know, just sitting on my own all day working in a dark room, not having like that mentor anymore. So it's still nice to be able to, you know, reach out to people and still have that help to and someone to learn from when I feel like I need to. And there are lots of other tools out there, you know, to learn from as well. But it's still nice to have that one-on-one chat.
I think let's forget COVID, we're back and it's normal. You got to try and get to networking events, meet DPs, meet directors, and try and make some friends of DPs, because if you can get on a journey with a DP or a director, but just go to these things. And these things are a pain, right? You've had a big day. Last thing you want to do is get on a train or go to some networking event, talk to people you don't know. But you have to do that, and you have to put yourself out there and say, yeah, I'll grade your film 50% off or whatever. I'll do your show reel. And that's the only way you got to do it. You've got to meet people.
Yeah, I found something interesting that is like to grade the camera test. I mean, to say to them, hey, we are going to make a movie or a serial, and they are going to start doing some camera tests. You can say, hey, come here and let's start like playing, and then you start building a relation.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to ask I'm going to consolidate a couple questions here. There's a lot of questions that are essentially, how is the best way to break in? And the questions kind of all have a similar theme, which is, how do I find new clients? How do I, you know, should I be on these social networks? Should I work for free? How do you begin as a freelancer and thrive? These are, you know, how do I get clients? I'm currently finishing film school. My demo reel is full of school projects. So what I would like you guys as a group, pardon me, Rebecca, for using the colloquial guys.
I love that.
I love you. You're amazing. As a group, you've got the, let's say, less than 2-year, maybe mostly self-trained, post-professional, maybe Cameron, maybe all the training they've gotten is something from one of you guys, or something like Alexis Van Herkman's book, something along these lines. I'm just curious, you get a chance to pull them aside and go, hey, kid, here's like my one line of advice about doing this long-term and professionally. What would that sentence be?
Jeff, just an aside, when do we get a chance to plug our classes so we can make some money?
Hey, you know something? Brother,
happen?
I'm going to mention right now. I'm going to mention right this second. Here we go, right behind me. Here is icolorist.com. You should know that Kevin's got classes coming up in 2021. Waz has got classes going on. Diego's got classes. I've got classes.
I don't have any classes. How am I going to make money?
Mark, I'll tell you what. You know, I'm going to not offer you a huge rate, but I would love for you to come and teach, you know, with me. I'm all for that, brother. All for it.
Yeah.
I could just
Come and
Okay.
teach you.
You teach me a little,
Yeah.
me a little color. I'll teach you a little bit about teaching, and we're good at the end of the day.
Okay.
Okay.
Even Steven.
But
It-
it is,
it's all
you know,
on
the colorist
iColorist,
mixer, the iColorist group, you know, does a lot in this community under the idea that we believe in people. We believe in being able to get an intro and advanced learning professionally. And in fact, one of the things I found as a free training resource up here was there's a whole section on like setting rates and the like. Kevin's got a bunch of classes coming up, including some ACEs workflow classes. So I had to make sure I paid the bills and mentioned icolorist.com. And let's take it back to the questions, unless
Thanks,
Waz
Jeff.
or Kevin, you want to add something in.
No, that's great. No, it's all on iColorist, so you can go there and find out all the details of when things are coming up in what time zone.
See how natural that felt, Kevin? Let's come back and answer that question though. Somebody in their first year, they want to take the bigger jobs, they want to start. And I have my opinion, but I would like to hear yours. Anybody want to go first?
I'll kick off. I only have a little bit of advice really, and that is, you know, to get work, you've got to be visible. And I would say, don't go to the obvious places. If you have a hobby or there's something that you know a lot about, look at those markets. Look at who's making motion pictures, whether it's commercials, corporate, industrial, around your area of interest. You know, if you're a diver or something, then start working on underwater footage. If you've got an interest in music, look at music. You know, and work with what you're good at. Work with your strengths. But you've got to be visible. You've got to let people know that you're looking for work. Otherwise, you'll never get anything.
Yeah, I will add
Diego?
some. Right now, the industry needs a lot of dailies colorists. Dailies colorists, a lot of people that grade dailies. So it's a good, I think it's a great training. It's a great training because you have to be fast and good and just use like CDL tools. That is awesome, like for learning. So to be a dailies colorist, I think is a great starting point.
Yeah, that's how I got started too, being a dailies colorist. And yeah, like Diego said, that's great training. And it's gonna, again, just keep in mind, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes thousands of hours to get really, really good, but just keep working on it.
But I'm going to actually chime in on one piece there, Mark, which is it's not something that happens overnight. And that's kind of the hardest thing in our attention economy, is that if you want to do this, be in this field and be in a market with, say, Rebecca or Mark or Diego or Waz or Kevin, you're putting in the time may mean 2 or 3 years trying to assist, working hard, being willing to do that extra hustle. And that's why networking, coming back to what we've talked in community, is so important. Because if you're a friendly person and people like getting along with you professionally, they're going to go, Rebecca might go, hey, you know what? I don't have enough time for this gig. I encountered you in, you know, I've looked at some of your work. Why don't you try a little bit of it? And if I like your work, maybe I'll recommend you to a client or the like, or maybe I'll charge for your services and get you under my umbrella. This is what right? This is the real way to break in, is be somebody who's being willing to helpful in that regard, not going to Fiverr and saying, oh, I'll do the work for less. Would you guys agree, disagree?
I agree. I think just being like a generally nice, helpful person will get you far. A lot of my clients are people who I was actually a runner for. I used to bring them teas and coffees, and now I grade their films. So it's just like full circle, which is really lovely.
Good.
I'm going to ask a couple technical ones in here because they're good. let's see. For the colorists with the need to wear vision glasses, there's something extra you do when you get new lenses. How do you care for your eyes? While it's not a money talk, it is, because everything we do to keep ourselves healthy is an investment. Panel?
I had a period when I was working in the London market where I didn't need glasses, but I was working so often, so close to the screen that I ended up wearing glasses for 2 years. Now I have to wear them most of the time. So yeah, looking after your eyes is really important, and making sure that the display is a good distance from you and good lighting in the room, comfort, getting up and taking breaks, all the obvious health things, super important, because your most important tool is your eyes, and the most expensive tool in the room, your eyes. So you really need to look after them.
Wear sunglasses every day. Protect those eyes.
Yeah, I used to have I worked
Glasses.
with a director who used to sit there with the sunglasses on.
Let's-
My
let's-
family, they're my money makers. Don't poke me in my eye.
Yeah.
For those of you who've stuck around so long, I would like you to know in about 2 minutes, we'll be at the hour mark, and we're going to give away something. Hold on, so we can do that pretty cool giveaway. I want to do, actually, I want to do my big last question, which is, if you could rewind, say, 10 years, and the answer no is not to buy Amazon stock or Tesla stock. If you could rewind 10 years and pull the younger version of yourself aside and give that person just this much advice, you know, 1 sentence into the past, 2 sentences in the past, what would you say? Was?
I would have talked to people more and just been more open, which I probably wasn't. Maybe that was a confidence thing, but just get out there and just talk to people a lot more, and probably listen more. Maybe I didn't listen as much. Do that.
MTO?
I would say, don't get cocky. When I was younger, you know, you kind of, after a few years, I thought I was the bomb and thought I knew everything. And then it took me a couple of times to get my face knocked in the dirt to realize I didn't know anything. So I'd say don't get cocky. Don't get cocky, and always be a learner, and don't get too comfortable when you are at that post. That's when you do get that job. Don't get super comfortable in it, meaning still keep learning, keep reading up on tech, stay up on technology, stay up on keeping your craft fresh, you know the cameras, things like that.
Mr. Shaw?
Yeah, I'd add on that. I mean, I think continually learning, never get stuck in a rut, continually learning. And 10 years ago would have been about the time I started working with ACEs. And I think the advice I would give to somebody starting out now that could save them 10 years, go straight to color management. Get stuck into color management now. Don't try it and do it without, and then try and learn it later. Do it first. That would be my big advice.
Diego?
Yeah, I will say, as similar as Warren say, be more talkative, talk with more people. Try, I mean, it's the contacts that you are getting are the contacts for your life in some way. So I think in some way, as Warren, probably, yes, it's great to study. It's great like to like be in the end with the end of technology, but it's great to have friends, DP friends. Also, I will say go to set. On set, colorists learn a lot, and we usually forget that.
Yeah.
Rebecca?
So I only entered the industry like 10 years ago. So this is like my whole career, really. And career-wise, I don't think I would actually change anything yet. And I don't, not to sound like, I don't know how that's going to come across, but I'm proud of myself. There, I said it. So
Look, you opened a business. You opened a business in the midst of COVID. I'm in awe. So you should be proud of yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, I had a right old rant with my friend the other day, but being a female in the industry hasn't been easy either, because it is so male dominated, and you always get the, you know, the remarks and stuff, and it's just, you know, being a female with epilepsy and being really young is like, okay, what else you got, kind of thing. So, you know, it's I kind of wouldn't change anything right now, because I feel like I've given it everything I physically could have done. I'm someone who really fights for what I want to do. So yeah, I maybe would have found
It's-
a guy sooner if I could do
It
it.
sounds like you're saying that trust your instinct.
I think always trust your instincts. Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to do a couple pieces of wrapping here, and then we're going to, I want to make sure everybody can say where the world can find you. I want to again mention at bit.ly/COVID color, and as well as where this link was this COVID survey. And I just want to mention to you just a couple things. Business compared to COVID, about 50% of you found it worse. Compared to mid 2020 last year, it's about the same or maybe even a little bit better. So it sounds like it took a dip and sat there. And then did you get financial relief? Some 45 plus, almost 50% of you said, yeah, you got some, whether it was from your employer or the government. And I'm going to go with, though, about 70% of you found it difficult to get to that relief, which we collectively can blame on governments everywhere. I think there's not a person who says, yay, bureaucracy. And on those notes here, I want to again mention the Colorist Mixer. Don't go away. We have still something to give away. Coloristmixer.com, April 17th, starting, hey, MTO, this will be easy. It's going to be noon to 6 p.m. at the same time in Vegas. As if in fact, we usually start at 6 p.m. in Vegas and go till midnight. It's 6 hours earlier than it's ever been for a mixer.
Awesome.
It's ton of content, ton of great conversations like this, some breakout rooms where there can be some socializing. That brings us to the end of this. I hope you've enjoyed it. If I didn't get to your question, please blame it on me. I tried to get to as many of the questions with these wonderful, insightful people as possible. I'd like to thank everybody for their time. Where can we find you all at online? Let's start with Mr. Shaw. Kevin, where can we find you?
You can find me at iColorist on Facebook. Twitter handle is KebsColor. Finalcolor.com is the website. That's where you'll find all the details, and lots of articles, giveaways, lots of stuff there.
Diego?
Yeah, you can find me at Colorist, LinkedIn, Instagram. Usually that's what. But definitely LinkedIn and Instagram, you can find me there.
You froze on my side there for a moment. Could you repeat that one more time?
All right. Yes, do I froze? Okay. Instagram, LinkedIn.
Right at the big point. Yeah, Instagram.
Yeah, and it's so easy. My last name is, I mean, there are not so many people with my last name, so you can find me. It's my D and then the last name, and that's it. You will find it.
Mr. MTO, Mark Osborne, where can we find
I'm easy to find. If you Google Mark Todd Osborne, you'll see my 5 social media sites: LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter. Look forward to talking with you.
Rebecca?
Also highly Googleable. I'm just Rebecca Goodeve across the board. So yeah, looking forward to seeing some new followers, hopefully.
Yeah,
Wow.
I feel sorry for the colorist called Dave Smith. Like,
You say that there's actually 2 colorists called Kevin Shaw. There's a colorist in LA who has exactly the same name as me.
Yeah.
there you go.
Waz, where can we find you?
iColorist is probably the best place, or Instagram, all the usual places. Google's a good place to go. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, reach out, come and say hello. But also, I think there'll probably be a breakout room, probably talking about money. So if people want to talk about this during the mixer, this won't be one of the topics. One of the topics might interest you guys here is how long to grade my film, commercial, doco, drama. That's going to be one that Dario's going to be running and putting together. Similar lines to this, but you know, we may have a breakout room on money as well if people go, we really want to continue this conversation.
Me on.
My name's Jeff Greenberg. I want to thank the panel. You know, it's always as good as the people who make it up. It's as good as the footage you get. When you have better footage, it's easy to look good. You can find me at Film Geek on all the social networks. And I'm at J. Greenberg Consulting, and I teach as part of iColorist. Thank you all for attending. I hope you had a good time. Hope you found it educational. A recording will be made available in the near future. Thanks again. Hope you can join us at the Colorist Mixer
Cheers.
or at one of our classes.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.
Great weekend.